And thanks for being here, guys, and show your interest. So I wanted to ask you, in which way do you want me to start? Like as a BPro or more in the software perspective?
Okay, Hugo, give us 2 minutes. There are 2 more people trying to get in. They were in the Google Hangouts.
Okay, yeah, we can start with this, right?
Yeah.
So you are the 5th cohort. Some of you are here, like Chris.
Okay.
So Chris, you are in AI.
Nice.
Pitch.
I'm in AI and I have to figure out how to unmute my mic. Yeah, there we go.
That happens.
So, well, that's weird. Yeah, so I work for KPMG. I'm a AI and automation consultant. Most of my clients are government, but I do some commercial folks as well. And when I say AI and automation, our big focus is around, my team's focus is around sort of commercial off-the-shelf AI and automation. So we do robotic process automation, UiPath, Blue Prism, those folks. And then we also do a lot of the products from Microsoft, Google, and others. Not a lot of like from the ground up construction. We've got another group that does that, but we do computer vision, natural language processing, speech to text, text to speech, all that good stuff as well. But then my background is actually as a biologist. I joke all the time when I do my sales pitches that I'm here talking to you all, and I've never taken a finance class in my life or a computer science class in my life. And then why are you standing up there? So yeah, I love it because it is that wonderful mix of biology and then you throw in the computer science thing. And I'm jealous of whoever has birds in the background.
Totally. Well, thanks for being here, guys. You let me know whenever we can. Well, this is something that I did in the past. I just took the pictures from the website on the B3.8 or the BPro website. And this is something that you can all have whenever you need to present you as a group. That could be interesting in case you want it. That's just something that I did before. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's really cool.
We can start. We got Karen and Walker that joined us, and they were the ones that we were waiting for. So
okay, so I had a question. If you want me to start, I don't know how to deactivate this, but if you want me to start from the BPro perspective or just the software, and then we move into the software straight away. How do you want me to do? I can do both, like 10 minutes and 10 minutes, and then we start a conversation together, or specifically going on how the software works. What do you prefer?
I think we can start with the BPro and then get into the software, because we're going to spend a little more time maybe on the software, and then we can get a little bit of your background, kind of where you came from.
Okay, so thank you for being there. And can I start now? Yeah.
Yes.
I'm a biomimicry professional, which is really an honor. And to be here with you guys, like it is inspiring for me, right? Of course, I think that I am achiever, innovative, nature-inspired, creative, but especially family-centered, which is something that doesn't go always hand by hand. I say that I'm in between the first 30, and I put some of my experiences in Unilever, Nike, and Kimberly-Clark, for example, before, when I was working for big companies. So in 2007, I started to try to understand how to tackle the challenge of impact evaluation. So there already, my cohort was 2011, 2013. So that was 2007 before getting into biomimicry. And that's part of the path where I got into. So I discovered that for telling stories, the trees, they have cycles and they have rings. So I put together an evaluation framework to try to explain the full story instead of just explaining one picture in terms of a dashboard. So that's something that could be useful for all of you. And also, I was looking into gradients. In this case, it's more like the rainbow, but you can also see all these gradients in nature when it gets dry from green to brown, for example. And here we can see there is a time scale. So time 0, time 1, time 2, and time 3. And I'm using this example because sustainable development goals are really complicated and really difficult to digest because there are 17 things in a different way. But just to show you and to offer you a perspective on how by using nature patterns, we can actually visualize the system in a whole different way. So for example, in terms of education, it's a short term because you can invest and change the trend. But in terms of climate change, for example, it's gonna take us a little bit longer. So then I got into how to understand nature, and I got into the ecosystem thinking. So this is how I present myself in terms of BPro and moving from isolated information into ecosystemic perspective. What I would like to see is to better understand where are the key players. So some players are more in competition, some others are more collaborative, and some others are more in the predatory schema. Some of the clients and experiences that I had in my past, like professional experiences. So there are many and very diverse. And this is kind of the last things that we are doing, trying to understand bioregions. So also we are working on I say we are working because I work as a family and especially with my wife. And she's very much into holistic health. So we are putting this ecosystem around health and individual health using this platform. So this is something that could be really relevant for the moment right now because it takes a perspective from the bottom up. So following the life principles actually gives you a lot of leads into how to tackle many of the challenges and problems. So far this is the presentation. I have a small video, but I don't think it's necessary now. So now let me jump into the software and 7VORTEX itself. So what we really want is to have a perspective on a positive humanity, right? We see very much like problems, and the news are covering most of the things that are negative, but we would like to focus on a positive humanity. So this is the perspective that we would like to have. So our purpose is to find a balance between humans and nature. And while I was doing the program in 2011, I had my first kid, and I had 3 kids in 3 years, right? So that was kind of a challenge, studying BPro at the same time. And my quest on understanding biomimicry took me to live into a real ecosystem. So I was living in Mexico City, and then we moved to live into the coastal dune in Yucatan, in the Mayan Peninsula, to try to see if it was for real, right? Like all testing and iterating life principles to be in nature and to say, well, if it's about nature, then let's go there and learn from a first-hand perspective. So we developed this platform. We designed it while I was there, but during these 3 years, one of the last year, I spent it without internet connection at all. So that gave me a perspective on nature, like it really grounded me in nature. And I was not actually into screens or coding, or I was just totally okay, right? But then somehow the destiny is like that, pushed me to move out from nature and to become, to come back to Belgium and to become a little bit more global again. So when I came back to Belgium, I realized that most of the people, they were hooked into their screens. So trying to be locally attuned, then I said, well, it might be the right moment and to develop something on the screen that help us to share the perspective that we had in this coastal dune, because we wanted to say to people, hey, everything is connected, and actually there are some interesting things behind. So in terms of a timeline, we started in 2007. We quitted our multinational companies, and I studied business before I was industrial engineering as one of you. And yeah, but also the major is industrial and systems engineering. So the systems part is system thinking, And that helped me a lot because I did simulation on system software. So I was familiar with, I was pretty familiar with I think, or IC is the name, and with simulation, but also mind maps and mind mapping tools that they were not fulfilling what I needed. So every time that I was going with the BPros, I was having this hard feeling of we are just losing our collective intelligence and our collective knowledge, right? Because you go there, you are on the field, let's say in Costa Rica, right? Or Montana, maybe you already went there. And in Montana, we're all looking at different things and they were asking different exercises, but we couldn't actually put it together in any other way. So that was for me really frustrating because I was learning so much. And then when you get back and you have a client that you have to talk about, I don't know, wind management, you have nothing again. So I was pushed into this. My case study was on neural networks. And at that time, neural networks wasn't AI as it is today. So I almost failed this case because I didn't have enough information as a business case. It was everything on theory, on, let's say, on the universities. So in 2009, we started digging into sustainability. Then I became a biomimicry professional, getting into different ecosystems. And then I started with my bioregional project. So we actually thought that it was the most important thing is to start from the place that you are, that you live in. So we started in our own community in El Cuyo before the platform, and we started to create positive impact there. So seed exchange, government programs, putting things there. I trained local forest guardians. I don't know if that's the name, in biomimicry. And to my surprise, they knew more than us, right? But because they are there. So once that you help them to trigger into biomimicry perspective, they were just flying. And I was again learning and learning and learning, but I kept losing my knowledge. So in 2015, when I came back to Belgium, I started this digital architecture. And my deep pattern is something that I learned in the Harvard forest, that it was the energy exchanges in nature. I don't know if you have had this class already, or if you are familiar with energy exchanges, but we're gonna touch it later. So in Europe, I started in 2017 as a business, as a startup. And the idea was to have an internet canvas, but my personal idea was to have a biomimicry journal because I needed to put all these new things coming up together and popping up together. So in 2019, now we have a collective intelligence and knowledge ecosystems. And at that time, when I did this presentation, there were 138 countries and about 3,000 cities. Right now, it's a little bit more. Until here, you have any doubt? Or any question as a BPros? We're okay, cool. So my function as a company is knowledge. Yeah, tell me, Flavia.
Sorry, let me interrupt you for a second. Deb, Shannon wants to join the, okay, perfect. Go ahead.
Cool. So let's say that doing the biomimicry program and after the biomimicry program, my mind was biomimicry wired, right? So I cannot think in many other different ways. So using life principles, which make sense, and having functions for a company. So I'm trying to represent one of these pioneers on having a biomimicry business. So the function of the company is knowledge transfer. But what I realized is that actually knowledge transfer is one of them, but it is having both. Like also I want to transfer beautiful knowledge, because one of the things that happens in nature is that the flowers are attractive, the flowers are beautiful. So if it's not attractive, you can have the best AI or whatever it is behind, but you are not gonna be transferring something, right? Like sending the message. So this is my artistic part. While I didn't have a connection into the internet, I started to get back to my colors and my pencils. And in the program, I was also exploring. So I get to draw into this flow. And so my favorite functions are bioluminescence, for example, with this bibliofishery idea. And I learn about quorum sensing as a decision-making process. And I say, why do we have democracies? How does does this quantum sensing works? And studying evolution, it's not a case study, but you call it like the virtual design lab. It was on evolution equals innovation. So we're trying to understand, and one of the main functions and main strategies that I discovered there, it was niche differentiation. So my biggest question is, how do we better understand the human ecological niche? How can we add value as a species? And how can we regenerate the planet in many different ways? Because it seems that everyone knows what to do in terms of a species, except for us. We keep destroying things and we are not adding value to the planet. So I don't know, this is just my personal reflections, but I think collective advantage is one of the things that actually makes us not just different, it's not unique, but it is something that allows us to evolve in a collective perspective. So when I went to try to decode the whole idea about mapping ecosystems, because most of the biologists, they were telling me that nature is about collaboration, and I studied business, and I understood that business, they were about competition. So when I saw this energy exchanges structure, so to say minus and minus between A and B, they are all B, minus and minus is competition. And then I say to myself, how can we keep competing all the time and losing energy every single time? And the other guy is, or the other girl is, the other part is also losing energy. And predation, it is plus minus. So let's say in this case, B takes the energy of A, or the other way around. So something that triggered really my mind into something positive was collaboration, which is positive. But I couldn't find lots of softwares that let me map the energy exchanges at the same time that I was able to map a stakeholder mapping or a market or a company and its impact around in the ecosystem. So I said, well, it might be related to have something that allows me to connect thoughts, but also to see the energy exchanges. And so for doing that, I become like I extracted the biology from the design, and then I went to see the coders. And to the coders, I explained in just the part of the engineering. But the main thing was to develop knowledge ecosystems that could lead us from isolated information, as I see like most of the databases today, to connected information which could be internet, but internet looks more like a fat, like it is just there. So how can we connect it to have it as a muscle, right? And I don't see Google or Facebook or these other big guys really interested in positive change. So if we can connect the information in a way that the knowledge could be transferred to local people and to create a difference for local kids, for example, or local families, then I think we were talking about a different kind of change. So that was the ecosystemic perspective into the digital view, right? So what about biomimicry? It was designed from nature. So I did it while I was in nature. I designed it together with Camille and from nature. And my design criteria were the life principles. So this is something that you need to know. Nobody else understands it as well as you guys. And I used each of them. Of course, they used life-friendly chemistry. Wasn't easy to achieve. I know that there are some opportunities there, but I tried to follow each of them. So every time that the engineers were coming to me, asking me, what should we do? Then I was going back to the life principles, and I was saying, well, I think this idea is better to make it modular and nested, to make it locally attuned, to give self-organization schemas, you know, so it could be something that evolves to survive. It could adapt to changing conditions. So all this design was always iterating in life principles, and the same for my business. So we had the principles, we had the pattern, and something that I also wanted to be pioneer is in the process, because I realized that being amongst the first biomimicry professionals is super hard, right? And we are all kind of delivering workshops, but it's very difficult to find examples that actually support us as a methodology. Because whenever we take something like the sharklet or this kind of things, they were not created through the biomimicry thinking process. So I thought we need something to move forward as something tangible. So I did both, like from biology to design and from design to biology in both ways, just iterating to better understand. And I can share it with you later if in case that you are interested. So this is the biomimicry insight. I usually don't share this with everyone because they are not familiar. They start by saying, what is biomimicry? So it becomes very, very complex. But in this case, I think you are lacking actually of content that is biomimicry thinking wise, right? Until here, there is any other question? Like in terms of biomimicry process, would you like to ask something? Is it okay? Cool. Okay, so then I said, well, how can I do it, right? If everything that I see is like an Excel spreadsheet, all these kind of things, they are squared. So I need something that actually works in a very different way. So I started to dig into technologies, and I found this technology that is called Neo4j, that is a database that is kind of arborescent, right? And the main difference is that they give the same weight, the same importance to the relationships and to the cell, right? So that means that it works closer to nature, because nowadays in Excel, if you want to find a relationship in between two cells, you have to make the whole table, right? And you have to search twice. So these guys, they realized that by having this graph database, you could actually find faster things. So I don't know if you're familiar with Panama Papers, for example, like a few years ago. So they took this full information inside into a database, they connected into a graph database, and they found the patterns into their relationships. So they could see who was related with whom. And it is a great technology for fraud detection in banking. Right, so it was very tough for me to get to them. So what I did, as I told you, I extracted the biology and I talked to engineers just in a way that they could understand it, but I didn't have the skills to code. So I did it everything by hand with watercolors in my kids' white book, and I presented in 12 slides. So I asked this guy in London, which is Michael, I said, please just close your computer, and then I started passing my drawings. So he was super surprised of having something so different, right? And to say, how can this be real? But actually, we can do everything you are asking us. And of course, right, because I've been digging and learning and training myself to better talk their language and to say, well, we need a graph database, and in the connections, I need positive, negative, and neutral. And I just need these 9 combinations. And without talking biology, they were able to understand it, and they say, oh, of course, like it's easy. And I don't know if that's actually useful, but if you want and really believe in the things that you are saying, so let's just move forward with this. So I've been very, very lucky to find someone that actually helped me out. They were not cheap, but they were kind of the top minds in this technology. They are based in London, and they are originally from Czech Republic. So until here, in terms of AI and all these things, I realized that it was the beginning, and it looks like a neural network, and it looks like an ecosystem. And of course, right, because everything connects in the same way. So if you have neural networks, maybe mycelium ecosystem, it's all about signals and energy exchanges in the second level. So what kind of things? And thinking about systemic thinking, we always have causal loops. So I affect you. But actually what I learned from nature is that it is the net exchange in between both. So it is not that I affect you, it's also you affect me. So you cannot split it into one-way relationship. You need to put it into both if we are following biological relationship kind of thinking, right? Of course you can do it. And I've been trying to think in systems in this way, but thanks to biomimicry, I was able to level up this conversation and thinking. So until here for the AI guys and Shoning or whoever wants, any question?
Well, okay. Yeah, I don't want to get too far into the weeds given all the folks on the call, but So this is a graph database, and did you use Neo4j for that, or did you use a different?
This is Neo4j, man.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Neo4j, and actually it was good because thanks to biomimicry, I'm thinking like this. I actually got exactly in the wave of AI because it's Neo4j. I didn't know that, right? Since I'm not a coder, I was not familiar with this thinking. And then I just discovered that I was there. So they got it from mathematics, from coding perspective, and I got from nature.
Yeah, and what I find fascinating about this approach right now is, typical AI, when you look at your typical neural net, it's a feed forward. It's a one way. You have a start, you have your nodes, and then you have, so you have an input and an output and nodes in between, and all the data moves left to right. And if you want any, there's back propagation, all that, I get that. But once it's mature, it's a left to right flow, and you essentially, you collapse any sort of feedback loops unless you start getting into larger things like GANs and other things like that, where you actually have to build a whole other net that then forces data back the other direction. Whereas this has a dynamic structure that allows those feed forward, feedback loops without creating whole other systems to do that.
Yeah, and I also saw that they have labels in the relationships, right, in the lines. So by having so many, it's very easy to collapse any system. But what nature, from my understanding, did or does, is just to have a specific number of exchanges. And in computer mind, you always think in zeros and ones. But actually, nature thinks in zeros, ones, and minus ones. Right? So one number more changes the whole equation. Yeah. But you can also stabilize it by just using this 9, there are 9 combinations, right? Because it depends on the flow from positive to negative and the same from plus to 0. But I think this is the future of Neo4j, to be honest. But they don't realize it because they are not biomimics, right? And it is normal. So I keep trying them to understand it, but I quit my effort. Like now I'm much more into business now. Right?
You got to tell them it's quantum mathematics, 0, 1, and both.
Yeah, but it is minus as well from my perspective, right? Like it has minus, 0, and plus. I don't know if it's even 1, but it's minus, 0, and plus. Yeah. So this is the screenshot of what I have in the Neo4j from 7VORTEX, right? So it is a real picture of that. So I wanted to develop a business model on this, right? Because I say, if we can like use the force of the market, the force of digital, informed by nature, we have to have a good mix around here with positive thinking. We need to disrupt all these kind of things that are happening. And my understanding, when I saw these guys like AI guys, they spend so much time behind the computer that I really lost hope on them to understand nature, because usually at some point they are even scared of nature, right? Like they were the guys that when they were kids, they were playing with computers, not getting out. So I said, well, I don't like this idea of computers and coding, but there are some things that you have to do, right? Some things that you need to do and something that you love to do. And this is the kind of things that I thought it was my responsibility as a system thinker and as a biomimic to do. And then I say, well, I have to use the power of business, because if we follow like someone like Steve Jobs that has put so much trash all over the world for a good design, like we all love this kind of designs, but it wasn't a holistic design, right? Like a biomimicry design. So what could happen if we actually deliver a better business and you show the way of doing money by doing wood and by using the right technologies and by etching and leading this kind of conversation. So as a biomimic, I felt that I had a shot, and as a family, I wanted to have this for looking to the eyes of my kids and saying, I did all it was in my hands for the future of everyone. It wasn't just playing around, right? So the business model is kind of easy. It's free for everyone as a reading. And then the first exchange is sign up. So I get an email, but I don't get personal information. To have an open vortex, to have open collaborations, to be able to share. And I started playing as a media lab, because what I realized is that this is another kind of media. It is not just a mind map. It is something different, right? But we think like this, so it might, it seems like your subconsciousness is having the full picture, and then you make sense consciously of the small parts. So I said, we need this kind of media for explaining our stories. So I wanted to develop a tool that, not being so expensive, so it's 10 euros per month or 100 euros per year, will allow us as a biomimics and sustainability professionals to tell their stories, because all our stories are complex, but most of the tools that we use are linear. So what the fuck, right? Like, how can I really have toys? And most of the toys are toys for boys, and they are investing most of their money in weapons. So this is not what I like for the future. So if I want to make the difference, then I put all my money here. I haven't had any other external investment so far. So my money is inside. And this is what I want to express and to share with the world also as a family. The Curator Pro, it goes, like the business model is from public to private. So if you want to have private information, then it means that you are dealing or doing some kind of business. And if you are doing a business, then I think it's fair enough to have like a feedback, right? So until here, we're gonna jump into the software itself, but do you have something around here? So
Hi, yes, Hugo, this is Flavia.
Hey, Flavia.
Hi, awesome presentation. So I wanted to ask you about the curator. Is it, is anybody checking the content, or is self-curated built from bottom up?
Self-organization, right? It takes a risk. Self-organization is the way to be. Bottom-up self-organization. So far, I haven't seen anything harmful. So I was trying to build it like from the bottom up with my own networks and creating critical connections. So I've been sharing this one-by-one basis, and I haven't done any other marketing or trying to get any way further. So far the content seems to be unique, powerful, and contextualized. Right? Any other question? Okay, so this is where we are more or less right now, this the last year, right? So just by doing this from Google Analytics, right now we are in 140 countries and more than 3,000 cities as visiting the website, right? And in terms of content, there are more than 4,000 content ecosystems or digital, well, I call it Vortex because I got confused with the ecosystems, right? Like I really want to leave the ecosystem part for living ecosystems, but let's say the market is using the word ecosystem in such a wrong way that I wanted also to play a role into that language at the same time. If we're going to talk about ecosystems, then let it be informed by at least biology. So there are about 80,000 bubbles and more than 1,000 people that had already curators, so users in there. And that has been in 2 years. In the beginning, BPros, they were helping me since the very, very beginning. And it was just 7 bubbles. So 1 in the center, 6 around it, and 6 types of relationships. So for me, that was the minimum viable product because you could map 6 different relationships. So from there, we're able to build, like to integrate development with growth. And at that point, we're at a seed. Now we are kind of a young tree, right? And this is what I'm doing right now. I'm on the health part, but also on the biosphere. So now that I used nature as an inspiration, as a source, as a methodology with biomimicry and biomimicry itself, then I have a whole set of tools. So for example, visualization in hexagons seems to be super important to have more order, because there are some people that they don't like that much systemic or bubbles because it's too messy. So maybe for decision makers, we can analyze it in hexagons. And it seems to be that for non-systemic people, 7 is the maximum number that you can handle as different elements. So what if we can understand a bioregion? This is Mexico City's watershed. And if we can measure the water flows, the quality of water, and we can align the city with the SDGs, we can understand the market and the stakeholder ecosystem with these kind of things. We can improve it and we can try to optimize it, and we can have insights in the phone to be able to take better decisions. So this is what I'm now trying to influence decision makers, to have better tools for them to be able to take better decisions. So again, with the digital ecosystemic architecture. And it's very important to me, I don't know if it's the same for everyone, but for me, my core is my family. So I've been developing this even with the help of my kids. And this is from December, last December, in Tayrona, in the Colombia National Park. I went with the Kogis, and this is with the Wiwas, the other kind of a brother tribe from the Kogis. And we spent some time there just trying to see how this technology could help them to empower their perspectives and to connect solutions in different ways. Because one of the things that I saw with As Nature is that they are taking scientific knowledge, but they are not taking a traditional knowledge on its own. So it seems that we are kind of discrediting traditional knowledge, but there is so much information and knowledge inside that if you know how to read it, it could be useful for everyone. Okay, so these are the prices that I'm trying to develop for companies and things. If you are interested, I'm more than happy to discuss it with you for developing networks, for giving workshops, for the government. So if in any of your countries there is a project like this, I'm more than happy to talk about our strategy for business is dispersive mutualism, right? So now I have collections on, for example, biomimicry, and I'm putting everything here. So if you are not yet with your user, then we're going to start with the software training formally. Are you ready? You have any other question before?
Hugo, I was just curious in terms of overall, I know you gave a brief example, but could you just maybe step me through really quickly, like a use case? Someone comes to you and says they want to do something. What is that something, and what would be the best use of a tool like this?
Look, what I learned from nature is that if it's gonna be locally attuned and responsive, it depends on each user, right? So I can give you my example, which might not be the same example that Deborah is having, right, or someone else, right? So what I realized after reading many examples, so this is the open innovation source. For me, it was like an open biomimicry source as well. So you can go through all of them, but there are many ways. So for example, this guy is using it for expressing his positive business kind of thing. So it's about geodesic domes. So it's using it like this. So presentation, storytelling will be the first one. Ideation, it's very unique for ideation because if you build it at the same time with a group, for example, I'm gonna give you the example of that in the next, well, let me do it right now.
Hugo, before you go on to that next phase, I do have a question just really quick about kind of the decision-making matrix you discussed around kind of the 7 hexagons. Would you be willing to give just an example of that? That's something that maybe it's formulating in your mind of how that works, but it certainly is not fomenting for me yet.
Okay, so for example, we're using it specifically for health, right? Because we realize that in health, for example, the president of Mexico, he doesn't know a lot about health, or in the United States could be the same case, right? We have a specific presidents. So for example, for a family, I'm a patient, so I want to have my trials, an emergency infographic, so I can deploy it like this. If I have my family, then I might want to look this as a family. So in my case, we are 5 plus the dog. So I will see a menu that is constantly renewing as a menu, right? And it is the same size from our age span. I think you remember Steve Jobs doing this for the one finger, right? For the thumb, using the iPod in the beginning. So I wanted to have something that you can manage with one hand, and that gives you enough information. So for example, for the doctors, you wanted to know like the stage of the epidemic right now. And well, it's exactly the one that is not here. Let me see if I have it in this one. I do have the visual. It's not here. So the timeline. So I want the same information, but in a line. So once that you have this systemic information, the body of the information, then you can fit form to function, right? And this is one of the functions that could be really attuned and adaptable to many interests. So it depends what you want to do, but it is not totally related to the energy exchanges. This is kind of a different layer of information. Of course, you can do it. And as I showed you in the beginning with hexagons, then I was playing with collaboration, competition, but this is not very clear how to do it, except if you map 6 relationships per each, and then you have borders and points of view of one or the other. So for example, the marketplace could be here, and then every time you go and come back and forth into a very clear and neat hive, right? I call it 7 hive.
That's what I was wondering about, is the interface between the, you know, the 3 surfaces that are touching that central face there. If there was an embedded piece of information in that interface. It is.
So, for example, now that I'm talking just about business, and this is kind of an overview as well, I'm talking about making digital solutions, right? To take optimal decisions. So embedded is going from linear to systemic, from maximizing to optimizing, and from competition to collaboration. Those 3 things are embedded. So first of all, you can have insights, then you can have an evaluation or goals to follow, the ecosystem, and then a dashboard. So my path led me to have a dashboard kind of thing. And then I do the workshop also as an introductory workshop to see which kind of a tool is best for you. But the hive, the one that is here, is the latest one that we are developing. So I just have this example as a case.
Final question, I think. I'm trying to figure, I love this, and I'm trying to figure out how I've got a small business that I'd like to start, a small project that seems like it's got a lot of moving parts. And I would love to be able to use this as a platform for it. Do you have, but this is a shoestring kind of a business, and I think you've got a shoestring price there for a good price. But as far as actually using it and learning how to use it, do you have any kind of tutorials, or is that what we're about to go into, so that I can start to understand how can I implement?
So I do have, you put here tutorials. Oh, sorry.
Great.
And what I've been doing is, for example, this record, I will put it in the tutorials, maybe, if I have it. And in the tutorials, I'm putting each bubble is a small video, or, right? So you can get here, or you can get into the YouTube channel. And I don't know exactly how to tell you, but if I put the video, you hear the sound or not?
Give it a try. Let's see.
All right. So I'm gonna share this link, but this is what came as a conclusion also for health, because once that we developed 7VORTEX, and we realized that actually was very useful for developing like a spin-off in health. And I think it's actually very, very relevant right now for everyone, right? But we haven't been able to do this. So I'm very happy to discuss any further collaborations if you want. So you have this and you can listen to it. This is my wife's design. And let's say in this way, I'm playing a different role on helping her with the technical part and translating to engineers. Okay, so are we ready? Someone else?
So I have a few questions.
No.
Hi, hello, I'm Alex. So in the process of mapping, in the process of using the tool, an issue I find when like doing any kind of mapping is the qualitative data. So I wonder, from your experience, how do you start the process of even forming the categories or mapping those interactions that are not necessary, they change all the time, and they're untangible.
Yeah, well, they are unmeasurable in a data perspective, but they are not invisible.
Yes.
So for example, how can we express that a mining company is polluting the water, right?
Yeah.
You have no metrics maybe for that, but you know that that is happening. So this is the first part. So in computer science, they call it going from unstructured data to structured data. So this is what it's all about. So for example, I play around, I just start putting bubbles and relationships, and I recheck it to see if it makes sense. So the first thing that I have to go is, it makes sense to me. I know that the mining companies are polluting water. Then I can be able to find information on this one, or I can create a survey, or I can do something else, right? But it is clear that this happens. And if you are in a collective, then you have consensus, or you have like common sense as a person and as a collective. So I think this is what we are missing. Now is a trend. Nora Bateson, I was talking to her last week, and she has something that is called warm data. So finally, the North is putting labels on the warm data, but this is common sense, right? And if you can map in a common sense way, then you will have something different. So for example, in the COVID-19, I was just mapping. So I didn't know how the information looks like, so it was emerging, right? And in the beginning, I was just putting like COVID, and then one thing, and then the other. So I was getting information, I don't know, this one from Bill Gates in a chat. So I took the pictures and I put it here.
Okay.
Yuval Noah Harari, right? He did something. And then the MIT stories. How can I measure this? It is very difficult, and even more if they have closed data.
Yeah.
So I also wanted to put a video, which is a parody, right? Or this one that is from the virus. So how can I put all these things together? And usually what we do is just to repost it in Facebook or in LinkedIn. And I couldn't stand anymore losing my knowledge there, because they are not about knowledge, they are just about the moment.
Yeah.
And they don't care about the world in general, right? So for me, it was very important to keep connecting all this information all together, and to have a qualitative, quantitative, and I don't know, maybe one legend from the Coggies will lead me to thinking in a way that is useful for the next thing. So how can I decide what is important and what not? And I think financial, for example, I don't know if you already went with Wes Jackson in the Land Institute, but he said, like, I was trying to measure all the impact and they couldn't finish, right? Because finance is doing this job of just what you can measure, and they're avoiding all the real costs. So this kind of math is very simplistic. So I think we're on the challenge of actually how to put all these things together.
Yeah, and also as they change all the time in real time.
Yeah.
Very
so
difficult.
In the future, what I'm trying to develop right now is a COVID dashboard, like the one that you saw with the rings, and I want to inform it in real time.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that I would like to have the most, right now, because I could show the dynamic of the system, like more simulation wise. But since I'm integrating development with growth, then my stage now it is not yet there. Let's say that this is just a picture of an ecosystem or a digital ecosystem or a vortex. And then I was thinking for companies, you can develop, slice it in 12 months. So you could see how the system is actually evolving, and you will focus on the relationship. So maybe there is some toxic relationships in the organizational behavior. You want to know it, and you want to know if it changes. So once that you see this pattern, then you get that comes from my impact evaluation experience. Then you go on how to measure it. So maybe phases, like you measure the quality in the bathroom, right? And you say, this guy, I like it, I don't like it, or this guy is collaborating, or this guy is not collaborating. So there are so many ways of measuring it that we have to be creative.
Yeah. And my last question is regarding this idea, like in nature, you know, like if you look at, for instance, material science, you have a configuration of elements, it generates a certain form or function. And if you alter that configuration a little bit, it generates a different function. So I wonder if one could use 7VORTEX to communicate that, like, this is the actual form, but if you change the configuration, this is how you'll get this result. Like
so something like, for example, I don't want to have it like this, and then the result will be different, or something like I want with centrality, so to see which one is important. So let's go to the, for example, Drawdown Project, which you might know.
This is great.
Sorry, but you are on the... So, well, I'm gonna come back to this Biomimicry Chicago, and this is, you know Robert Suarez?
No.
He was from IDEO, also BPros. So for example, when you have a list on Drawdown Project, right? The list doesn't give you any insights. But if you see it like this, then you have some insights. And if you change it, if you read it in a systemic way or in a vortex way, then you see which one matters the most.
Yeah. Got it. Cool.
Right? So if I don't want centrality, I want them all the same size. So it is like looking into a crystal, which was my analogy. Sometimes when you look into a quartz, you see different colors, and changing the perspective helps to exercise your brain to be flexible and resilient and to see things like from different perspectives all the time. So sometimes it gives you a centrality, sometimes not, right? You can keep moving it. It depends how you express it. And this is the problem with science right now, right? Like it is used with some specific purposes, but all traditional knowledge is left behind. And as a humanity, as a one species, we should take advantage of everything is out there if we want to evolve, right?
Yeah, I almost, with this, I almost feel like I'm inside the information as opposed to looking at it, which my brain makes an analogy between the difference between looking at an image taken with the microscope and actually looking through the microscope and like having that experience of seeing the information in a different way. So like it's the experience of the information.
Cool. I love that description, and this is why I also did it, right? Like because I wanted something more organic in a way that actually
it feels very organic.
Let us see like molecules, and it makes sense, right?
Yeah, it's very, totally.
So it is connected. It might be more connected than this, but this is a good beginning. So when you see, for example, other tools, they are just mapping databases. And this was for me not the goal at all, because I didn't want to keep the same thinking, to bring the same thinking into a graph. But actually, what I think was missing was how can we bring experience to the digital realm?
Yeah.
Because experience is left out. So I went to the AI for Good Summit in Geneva, and there's more than 50% of the people that are not connected to the internet, and they don't know how to bring information that is not in a data set. well, what if we ask to the leaders how to manage a country, and this graph will be informing in a machine learning process a contextualized narrative, because we are lacking context in all our narratives. Mm-hmm. And this is what I wanted to show in this expression, right? So just getting back to the example that you asked me of using it, this is one thing that I did between yesterday and today. So we record a video on exploration on this one, but it was a group like you, and we're all putting ideas and we couldn't agree on something. So I said, come on guys, like, please let me just use the tool for once, right? I don't want to impose myself, but please just let me use the tool. So we did it, and we start saying, so with a methodology, what is the intent? What is the purpose of the crop of Brussels? And we don't even know each other, right? Like us, we met through a digital platform. Now in the lockdown, we are trying to do things. So I started to put information, and in the beginning, it didn't have shape. Like, it wasn't making sense. But then when it self-emerges, then you start to see patterns. And of course it takes practice. But in my case, I was doing that anyway in a whiteboard, like many years ago, right? So like peace building processes, the convergent strategies. So I was also willing to give a different tool to biomimics to assess while you get into. So this workshop that I'm doing on assessing how everything is connected and how you have to look the ecosystem is feasible for any of you. And if you make a good business out of it, you will be willing to pay the license. And that will be a good business for me. And in the best case scenarios, we will develop, for example, this simulation tool that you are asking. And that will give me more resources. So I cannot do it on my own, right? I need help. And that's why I really like to be with BPros, because I think we are somehow trained in a very similar way. Mm-hmm. Something else, guys?
Thank you.
Did I respond the case? So
yeah.
Ideation, strategizing, and collaboration are the three things that are being more useful. Okay. So first, if you are here, then let's go straight away to how to use the software. So you click on join. On join, you will go to sign up. I prefer to sign up with your email, so you are not totally linked with LinkedIn or Facebook. It's up to you guys, but for me, it was also interesting to be independent, like autonomous of these guys, so they don't trace myself here around here. And put your email, put a password, agree. So basically, the legal part is that you are responsible of what you publish, and yeah, it's up to you what you want to publish. And what I'm taking is, if I see something that is wrong, like porn or something like this, I think I should delete it, right? Because this is not the intention of the platform. But let's say that it is about knowledge transfer. So I have my user already, so I do login.
Hugo, I'm sorry, I missed it. What link do we go to get to that sign up?
Okay, sorry, 7vortex.com. So 7vortex.com.
Thanks.
And then you get into here, and here on the top, you will see the join button. So I will give you 2 or 3 minutes. Maybe someone else has another question. And while you have your user, and if you want to practice, because we're going to do a collaborative exercise, right?
Hugo, I have a question, please.
Yeah.
Let's say we put up a Vortex on this platform. Is that public? If I would like to use it for a for-profit purpose and not share with the world, could I use that? Could I do that?
That's a business model, right? If it's private, then you pay a license or a membership, and you have as many private Vortex as you want, like me. I'm also paying for it, right? So those are my private ones. And this one, for example, it's for Colombia. It's a proposal to the it's the same kind of chart that you saw. So I'm trying to sell this to Colombian governments because I think it's useful for any other government. So I have it in private. I share it with the client as an image. And wait, because you're around here. Let me see how to move you. So I share the link. And also something else that I could do with the private is that I can embed it. So for example, Biomimica, which was my project in El Cuyo, I embedded some just for you to know. So with the license, you put your website into the whitelist, so anyone else can do it but you. And then you can see it in a WordPress website or in a Wix, which is for free. In WordPress, you have to have the premium. And it's an iframe. So if you know how to code, you can even put an iframe and just do it there, right? So it is very useful for as a deliverable with the clients. This is what I'm delivering. This is how I'm presenting my proposals. And sometimes I'm just taking pictures of this and like this one. And then I use it for a PowerPoint. And in a PowerPoint or in a keynote, I put the link so I can get interactive in the moment that I feel that is important. Right? Is that an answer, Flavia?
Yes, thank you so much. Perfect.
Cool. So someone that hasn't been able to create its user? Okay. So now I'm here. And the first thing, well, you have something that is called Playground as a user, right? So this is the only one, the Playground, the only one. I don't have it because I already have other maps or other Vortex. But if you have the Playground, this is a private one. This is a gift. This is the only one that is going to be private. But it is for playing around. It is, sometimes you cannot change the title. So don't use it in this way, but use it if you want to just play around. So otherwise you create another one, which could be public, for example. So let's say this is Biomimicry Professional.
How do we know which one is our private one and which one's our playground?
If in the title says playground, it's just the first one. That's the only one. If it doesn't say, if it says Untitled Ecosystem, then if you don't have the license, it's for sure a public. But you can check it here in the access. So for example, this is public.
And can I find, so can I find my playground again?
I don't have that screen, so it should be feasible. But I don't know, someone else could share the screen just to show the playground.
Hey, Catalina, if you go up to My Creations,
here,
you should, your view will be smaller than Hugo's, and one of those should be Playground.
Thank you, Chris. Found it.
So that's the only private that you have. So we're thinking about the business model per map, but then you have to take decisions, and every time that you ask for an option, you have to pay for a coder to develop it. And that becomes really, really expensive. So my apologies if everything is not exactly right in the way, like having many options, but I think it's good enough. So let's say I make it this, right? And let's put it as a trial with BPros. And we're gonna play with this in many different ways. So I'm gonna make it collaborative. We're gonna see all the tools. So here is private or public, and in my creations, I can see that here is public, this one is private. Yes, so you can be sure. Now I'm gonna make it collaborative, right? So I'm gonna copy the link, I'm gonna put it into the chat, and we're gonna start here. So please go to that link and pressing the button that will be something like this. This is not mine. You will have something like this, and pressing the button edit. And you will send a message saying that your user will be visible, just your email address that you logged in with. right? And then you're already playing, right? Pull a bubble, pull a line, drag and drop. This is the way it works. It is not more complicated than that. And I will say this is Hugo. So try to put yours. It has a delay of 4 to 7 seconds, which I think is fair enough because the price of real time was really, really, really expensive. So for me, it changes the way that we teach as well, right? Because if you do something like this for a group, you will have two ways communication. So your students will be able to add information as well. So far I would like to see like more of them. You already did it, the others, or?
I'm sorry, I'm not getting that same user interface window where I can create something.
You want to share the screen? Who's talking? Karen. Yeah. So where are you, Karen? Are you in the?
I followed your link.
Okay, so you can come here to explore, and you can click on the first one.
Go to explore.
Here, 7vortex.com, and then you click on explore. And then you see trial with BPros.
I'm having trouble getting back to that 7VORTEX with the Explorer.
So the best explorer is Chrome, just for you to know. You also have to make decisions on that one.
Yeah, I'm in Safari. Maybe that's the problem.
Maybe.
Okay.
So now, for example, this is my vortex. So I have the possibility to edit, delete, or do whatever I want with this one. In each bubble, you have title, link, timestamp, color. You can upload an image, or you can put a YouTube video. So for example, if I want to put this video, I will come here, share. I will come back, and instead of putting it in yours, I will put it in mine. So I paste it, set as a media. And now I have here, this is the presentation mode. So I'm going to the presentation mode, and the video is there. So you have something very multimedia straight away. Right? If you want, so for example, if I'm now in one that it doesn't belong to me, like this one.
Hey, Hugo, one
Yeah.
second, if you don't mind. Can you just tell me how to get a bubble? I'm not being able to do it, and I've built a whole ecosystem, but I can't seem to find the link right now.
Okay, so for example, I'm gonna open one that is not mine, so you can see it in the same way that you see it.
Mm-hmm.
So here you have the preview mode and the start collaborating.
Collaborating.
So click
Yeah.
here.
I'm in. I just can't
Start
figure out where to
collaboration.
make a bubble.
And then you drag a line out of any bubble.
That's not working for mine. I'm not sure why. Or maybe it's just a really big time delay.
No, it should be, could you create one on your own like this?
I'm doing try with BPros, and I'm trying to do it. Oh, now it's working. I think it was just a delay. Thank you. All set.
Okay, perfect. So now this is the one, and we have all of you there. So this could help for online conversations as well, and for team brainstorming, for example, right? Ideation and this kind of stuff. Then we can click, or we can make connections. So for example, here, right? Like Deb did a vortex in the beginning. So this is positive for Deb, positive for me. And this is how it works in the relationship. So you will, you click on the line, and then you have the plus, 0, and minus. So if I'm in competition with someone, which will be very stupid, then I will be losing my energy. So you can also add lines, but you cannot edit everyone else's bubbles. You can just edit your own bubbles. There you are. So we have covered these two. We have the view mode. This is not editable, and this is for having the presentation like this. So for example, you can go with the arrows and go one by one in the order that they were created. So you will have something linear, which is needed as well. Not everyone is systemic, so maybe for some of the people this is overwhelming. And here, for example, let's try to see one that is like yours. So I'm in the presentation mode. I start here, and then I start one by one. Right, so this is one way. If you have pictures, like in the names, let me see Flavia, for instance, I can make it big. And if just the image will be there. So whenever it's an image, it will be like a full screen image. I did it as well because in biomimicry, we use the power of images to express it, right? So maybe you can do a presentation in a linear way with the slides that are still frames, but you can give the link for them to explore into the vortex. So in one presentation that I did, Zero Friction is her name. I was talking about thermoregulation, right? So I did a presentation. I'm gonna put it like this. So I was with arrows, you can also do it. So I was presenting different strategies. Some of them, they come from As Nature, so I put the link here. Videos. And then I click on the link, and in the tag name that they gave us, we put a QR code. So while I was presenting, they were into the link straight away, and they were able to explore it on their own phones or computers. So that's pretty cool as well as a tip. Right.
Hugo, when you were doing the presentation, were you actually giving the presentation directly from 7VORTEX, or? I
always have both, because okay. I think it's sometimes risky. So for example, once with Biomimicry Netherlands, I tried to do one in Vortex, and since I was on the public and like on a big screen, they didn't have any computer or mouse to do it. So it was very difficult to interact. So I prepared like more into a PowerPoint. But from the iPad, you can play around. So if you can mirror your screen from the iPad into the projector, into the big screen, then it's very easy to play with. So it's more a matter of remote controlling the thing. Right? Otherwise, I always use it as a 7VORTEX. But form fits function, right? The technology should never be the end. Like this is just one other tool for us. And this is a grid that I was showing you the other day. So I was here, and if I wanted to move like here, like this, then I was having my story complete, right? So I can talk about my story just with clicks and arrows.
How are you doing that? Like, how is it moving from one to the other?
Arrows or these arrows, yeah.
But, and how do you establish the order?
Wait. So the order is the order of creation, but of course it became difficult at some point, because then you get confused, and then the last one you put it into the first one. So this is this button. The order is here. So for example, if I wanted to start by this one or by knowledge ecosystem, and I want to make this one the first, then I just put it here, which is very useful for the one like yours, Deb, because it becomes really overwhelming, right, at some point. So
yeah, mine is totally overwhelming. I need some reorganization, and I need to make the links live again.
Yeah, but I will give you the tricks to make it now with the newest tools to make it more and more accessible. So preview mode, we know it. Edit mode is for creating bubbles, as well as we saw it in the collaborative one. Then we have the curate mode. So for example, if I have this one, the way I will do it, oh, something happened there. Maybe the connection. So let me just put it here. So that will be the way that the machine will tell me, right? With this centrality. And I will say, yes, but this is not the way that I want to present. So the machine is not as intelligent as I would like. And there is a human ingredient that I want to put here. So I developed the curated mode, the curation mode. And that's why I call curators. Because now here, with this curate mode, let's go back to the one that we did together. So for example, I will say like, yeah, but I want this here. I want to see this relationship. That is the one that I want to express. I want to put this one around here. So with this mode, I can place the bubbles when I want it, where I want it. And if I click here, there's no undo, right? Like in nature, there's no undo. So that's a big problem sometimes, but you get used to. So if I do this, then I have to redo it again. So let's say I do it like this, it's fine. And then I say, well, but I don't want actually that bubble to be so relevant. So I wanted to make it like this. And I want to emphasize in this type of relationship. And so I can put it like this. And this is when you're, Alexandra, I think, yeah? It's when your questions comes alive, right? Because you have common sense. So this is the story that I want to say. It is not about just the data, but it's about what kind of intention I had behind my message. Like, what do you want the audience to think, feel, and do? So depending on that, you will have moving bubbles, or I can start like in this place, in this side, you have this small, like, I don't know what's the name, but arrows, let's say. And I can even take out the titles. So they don't focus on who is predating who, right? I'm just saying, like, look, guys, in this organization, we have a couple of problems. One is going to be the predatory relationships that happens to be here. And the other part maybe is the mining industry killing the water and the market killing the mining industry, who knows? And we also have a big competition here. So take care about this, because these are the relationships that we need to transform as a goal, because we would like them. And then I do like this, for example, we would like them to make it, instead of competing relationships, we want them to be positive, or at least 0-0, right? We don't want to kill each other. So at least let's stay like this. And I'm not showing any data so far. I'm just having an ecosystemic narrative. So you can, in the view mode, all these buttons are on and off. So I would like to have something like, I want to start from here, but it doesn't exist yet. So I have to go before the group, and I have to start it wherever I want. So I can delete the lines, I can take out the colors, I can even take out the bubbles. And if I put the titles and I take, wait, it will be like this. So we can even see it as a word cloud, yeah. Right, until here, is everything fine? The same for the signs. Like, for example, we color them all, we put all the lines, bubbles, and then I can hide the sign. So maybe in this case, you don't want exactly to say it is a collaborative or not, but you just establish a gradient. And you are the owner of the gradient schema. So you use just the colors, and you can say this is very positive and this is very negative, if you don't want your audience to get into like energy exchanges. But you can play with the colors. So I try.
That's really cool.
Thank you. So by giving all these reshuffle information things, you end up by having this kind of designs, right?
In regards to the gradients, how do you establish this language before, like what color is it, what color is what, and what grade, like, do you tell, when you explain such a map, do you tell them before? Like, is there, you create also like a sort of map with, with
Yeah,
what each color means?
I've been used to this, where is it? Here. To this kind of visualization. So in the beginning, I was using the, like the lights, the traffic lights. And then I realized that just having 3 wasn't enough. Mm-hmm. So I moved into until the blue, for example. And then when I was in nature, I also saw the rainbow. So the rainbow works more or less like this. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was clear that competition was red. For me, that's my like own perspective, because you are both losing energy. So that's red. This is wrong. You shouldn't be losing energy. And collaboration was the other extreme of the gradient. So then it became like a common sense logic as well. So mm-hmm. plus and 0 was blue, 0, 0 was green, 0 minus, yeah, you know, I just establish it like this. Mm-hmm. When you come here to the energy exchanges, for example, this is like the house mark, right? Because I did it like this. But let's put energy or energy exchanges. Cool. So let me see if it's this one. So whenever I want to open one here, I also do the control. And the one that I'm looking, maybe this one. So this is part of my research. So the energy exchanges in an ecosystem, the types of interaction, and they were all using these kind of things. And again, right, you have to be visual and you have to deliver a message. Even here they were using negative red, neutral, yellow, positive. But the real positive should be like there is a gradient in between them that you cannot see here very clear.
Very cool.
So biological interaction, this is one of the first like visualizations of this. It might be more clear. And this is what I was saying on plus, 0, and minus. Mm-hmm. So plus receives benefit, 0 is not affected or neutral, and minus is harmed. And if you want to give a different meaning, a whole different meaning, well, that's up to you, right? I'm no one to forbid you to do something. So I'm not so sure that everyone is using it like this, but I will appreciate BPros to have a common language.
Hugo, I wanted to go back to just the mechanics of how we work together remotely. Yeah. You said there's no undo, so I assume there isn't any kind of versioning control?
Well, when you have the license, you can create copies. Okay. So for example, I can create copy to my own user. And then in my creations, you will see both. This is private, this is public and collaborative. So now I have a version of what I wanted.
Right. So we're working collaboratively. Someone makes a change, I'm not able to change their or work on their input or creation?
Yeah, but they can just change their own bubble. So if you are the owner, so for example, you cannot change my bubble. If you try to open one of mine, you will see that it's blocked for you. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to like minimize the damage in this way. And the one of the projects about having different networks roles, like a different hierarchy, it's on the way. So to let other one edit everything or not. So one of the ways that it works is also like, for example, I can transfer the property to one of your emails. I don't know, I cannot see an email. Can someone write it, your email address around here, please, and let me know? Ah, it is here. So let's say Channing. Hi, Channing. And let's say that I want to do this as, I want to give this to Channing. So I do move. And I don't have it anymore in my creations. Now Channing is the owner. Do you receive it, Channing? He wasn't logged in, right? Did you get it? Yeah. So now you are the owner, and it's up to you if you want to give it back to me or not.
Of course.
If you want to share it. And but this is part of the premium like membership, right? Like the pro membership. And for private collaborations, you all should have the membership. Otherwise, they are just public collaborations, which it works, right? Like so far is nice. So for example, all these collaborations are open and public, and I will be able to get here and then to mess up with this one. But nobody has done it so far because we respect each other. So instead of using my resources like to build an army and to defend myself, I decided to implement it to create more. And so far, trusting has been a good way to move forward.
So, Hugo, is there a way that I can leave a comment to somebody if, for example, I see somebody sees a negative relationship and I see a positive, can I make?
Well, the way that I cracked the system, because it doesn't exist as a comment, is you put another bubble, and then in the other bubble say like, be careful with the relationship. And it might be here, right? I want to check this relationship. I don't know. And then maybe I can add a whole different color. I'm the one using the colors, but if you agreed on, for example, changing the colors, once that is established, this is not very intuitive, but this is the way that it happened. To change the colors, you come here, you set it up first. So there are just two colors here. And I will say that this one, I want it in red. So I put it here, I say comments. I want the text in white, save, and there you go.
Okay, thank you. You could also tell us a little bit about the tags.
Yeah, so sorry that I didn't start in this way, but each of the bubbles is an information unit. So I saw it as a building block, right? And this is what makes a big difference with others. So this is a link, this is a timestamp, color, the image, or the YouTube video. You can just put one, an abstract, and a tag. So for example, if I put here always BPro, I can put a tag here. And when I see it in the presentation mode, I don't remember which one was it. So here I have a search engine, and my tag was BPro. So I'm gonna see who was here, right? So this is the tag, the BPro, and I can search inside the graph, right? So for example, if I put here Hugo, it will underline it with a pink, like outer layer, right? Is that okay? So we have covered all these, the order as well, and then the stars. The stars is the thing that I think will be really helpful for you, because I don't always want to start the presentation in the same order, right? Having a systemic perspective, I can get from many different places at once. So if I remember well, you have the ethos, reconnect, and something else, right? Like the 3 pillars. So I can start this one, I can start this one, and I can, let's say, start that. So when I come here to the presentation or preview mode, then in the layout, the stars will appear. So I can start the presentation as a biomimicry professional. And for centering the screen, you can, so for example here, I go with dev, it's center. But if, I don't know, maybe if I go again with biomimicry professional, it is okay. And then it moved, right? I say, oh, this is not centered. So whether you can click here or you can click on the space bar. So the space bar will bring you back to the center. So you don't get loose all the time. So I say, well, now I want to start by dev because this is where I would like to say, well, we did this, and then from here, we are both BPros, and so on and so forth. So you can establish this for the 3 pillars, and then looking at it in a different way. So for example, this is what we did with a group that I was working with before you. I'm here in the wisdom circles, and they have so many stories, right? And they want to talk about the lockdown. So he asked me for making a video to start in the lockdown, and then I saw it like this, right? But maybe the story, it goes more on the challenges or how fear is composed, because it seems like fear is not helping our health, and fear is killing inspiration. So I ended up the presentation for them changing, inverting the relationship. So I say we want inspiration to kill fear. But in the beginning it was the other way around. So this gives us an entry point, like different entry points all the time. So he wanted to start bottom up, so you have it. And you can just zoom in and zoom out if it's too small. This is something, so we cover the stars, and let me just recenter it. And now we go to the presentation tools. Whenever you are here, you have also, in my case, when you are the owner, I'm playing with the insights, which is AI. So for example, let me put one that I know.
Hey, Hugo.
Yeah.
I'm trying to transfer this back to you, and I don't see the same screen that you had.
No, because you don't have the license, right?
Ah, well, that would explain it. So I can't transfer this back to you then?
No, unless you are a pro membership owner.
Oh, okay.
So I've been using this as a media for publishing things that I collect from the web, from Facebook and LinkedIn, for example. So I put an image behind, then I have just 7. So it's the beginning of the hive. This is another way. So this is more like an e-magazine, and I have it here. I have I have put more content, and what I'm trying to do with my engineers is to find insights here. So that is the future, right, of the tool. So it is not very well deployed yet. We are in entity recognition. So we have this is environmental engineering, green chemistry program. This is just entity recognition, but the ideal will be to tell you if you are working with water pipes, there is someone else in the community that is also doing water pipes. So in my profile, I also have some suggestions. So the suggestions, they go with the entity recognition, with organizations, with organization is one, people is another one, place is another one, I think. So we're trying to understand how to make better recommendations. So location. So for example, this is on John DeLue. Let me see if there's something. This is not mine, right? So I can come here and I will see, this is mine. I will see a recommendation from the Vortex, right? So if as a function we have foster collaboration, what can we do in terms of algorithms and all this stuff? So for example, I've been studying, you know, teaming, right? From Thompson. So in teaming, I'm using this kind of a strategy. So for me, the valuable strategies are the one in yellow. So open communication, something greater, diversity. I don't know, if superorganisms, they work like this, then I should be informing my design by using these strategies in one way or another, right? So this is one way. So if I want to make it modular and nested, I can take a picture of this. I hope it looks beautiful because that was one of the intentions. And then I come back to your vortex. And let's say, who doesn't have a picture? I can put here the link and I can put here the image just to show you how it works. And now we have created a connection to this one, right? So for all of you that are willing to see it, you can click here and then you will come here straight away. And you can create another button to go back. So it's very, yeah.
In the mode options that I have are limited because I am not the owner of the Vortex, or because I am not a paid version?
So let's go back to the, now it will make more sense maybe. No, it wasn't here. Just to explain again, right? Here. So when you're a curator and you have it for free, just with your email, you have open Vortex, open collaborations, and you can share with this link, right? But you cannot embed, you can just share, although the address is there. And you have access to the Media Lab, which in my case, the Media Lab is this, not this one, but sorry, Discover. So here, for example, the biographs, I couldn't see a place where all these people were together. So I put it here, and this is part of the featured content that we have, and this is also part of being a curator. So I don't know, we want to see something on E.O. Wilson, and this is what I created. I can make it collaborative, maybe, why not? So you can add information, and we can see here some of his videos. So this discover part is unlocked with the user. And here are all my Lucky 7s, which is the magazine that I show you. So I've been putting information that I find relevant 7 by 7. And now I have a knowledge base that is very interesting. So this is
the team, if you're not speaking, to mute because there's getting feedback. Thanks.
okay. So this is a collection of Lucky 7s. And just to give you an idea of how it could look afterwards, like everything is getting connected behind. So we will be able to use the information in so many different ways if we keep connecting. And so the share button, here, for example, you have the copy and you have the embed code. This is also for the pro membership, which is here. So in the private, in the Curator Pro, you have private Vortex. You can collaborate privately with others that also have the pro membership. You can embed, you can transfer, and you can copy.
Okay, so the meta Vortex that you showed us is that's made up of the Lucky 7s that you have?
Yeah, so in the beginning, I could just put 7 by 7 and not the whole ecosystem. So I did about like 100, I think. Let's see how many bubbles are around. So yeah, like 100 lucky sevens in the beginning. I was just putting information together, and this is the representation of those 102. And I don't know why it has one extra, right? But maybe I put it at some point. So this is the first collection, and then I started to redo it again, like 7 by 7.
Okay.
Once that I had the ecosystem. So this is the way that it could look if we put all the knowledge together from just putting 7 by 7, right? So for example, here I have one on, if you put digital biomimicry, you can see a video on this guy talking about different kinds of stuff, right? Okay, biomimicry. So at some point, some of the things that I'm putting there, I'm also putting it in the biomimicry collection. So you will see things that are relevant for us. So for example, this is the way that I presented before the 7VORTEX. So we have the essential elements, following life principles, and a pattern to empower people, community, and organization. This is how I presented today, I think. And it's an information system for the organization. It is a creative source for the community, and it is a creation tool for the pioneer or the people. And it goes all together to a collective intelligence, right? So for example, a genius of biome. This is one that is cool. And if you want to place it, so in the other, you have the bubble and you have the title. So in the title, and I think I'm going to stop here to not to make it hyper complicated, but in the title, you also have the possibility to make it as a template. So the template will fix the image with the bubbles. So for example, if I want to put this bubble here and or here, then I can.
I cannot, I don't have that mode to do the fixed one.
You do, but you have it into the biome, into the title. So in the title, you come here, and the background style with a picture, you can make it vignette, grid, or template. If it's template, then it shrinks the image. And then still, yeah.
But for like how do I make the like I don't have so you have the visual mode, the editing mode, and the diamond, and the 1 to 9, and the star.
So in the edit mode, in the title,
we don't have, like I don't have the diamond and the 1 to 9 and the star.
Not in the collaborative one, but in one that is yours, yes, you do.
Okay. And if I have the paid mode, and I have collaborative mode, do I get those icons too, or those options?
Not for the collaborative. In the collaborative, the owner is still the owner.
Okay.
But for example, if let's say I'm the owner of this one, right? What I gave to Shannon is a copy. So in this one, I want to put something in the background. So the other, let's say, editable thing, which is not a bubble, is the title. So you have the title, you can put it in different colors as well. You can choose it on the top, on the left, and you can have a collection. So I have some collections here. So let's say this is like folders, BPros. And then I put a logo, which I don't know, let's play with this one. So to deliver to a client, and I have the logo here, and then I can put a background. So let's put the background, and then I will show you how to do this as a genius of place. Right, so you have an organism here, and you can use it for describing the organism itself. So I will say this is, let me just maybe do it in another one. So again, the background, I come here. This is a Hawaiian bobtail squid. So now I can move the bubble. If I I put template, then it becomes fixed, right? So for the genius of place, I will use the template mode. So now I go to curate, then I say, I don't know exactly where is it, but let's start by saying this is a bobtail squid, which has a light organ, which I think is here, but I'm not so sure. Does someone knows? Which makes bioluminescence, which has inside quorum sensing, and I want to establish it as something like this. Whether I can keep the lines and I present it like this, or at some point I just delete the lines, which is one of the cases, and then I have it fixed. So if I have it like this, then I can also create an infographic, an interactive infographic. So I want to explain an organism, and I might wanna do it bigger. And it depends on me, right? On my story. So maybe I want this one here, right? So you can create, and I did something with Catalina last time, I think was coconut. So we did something like this. So we put it for the wind management here, for the seed like this. And then in the seed, I put a picture, and you can put the strategy from Mass Nature or from wherever you want. Is that clear? So far I think if, we can go here, discover, collaborate, all the collaborative maps, my creations, my collections, I can set up a new collection here, and my collaborations where I'm collaborating, so I can go back like quicker to these ones. Okay, now I'm all yours for questions, answers, or more doubts.
I just wanted to say, like with anything, you learn by doing it. So it might not seem totally intuitive yet, but all you need to do is go in and create and mess around with it for an hour, and you'll get much more comfortable.
Thank you.
Okay, Hugo, I have a question. So let's say I buy the membership and I start building a very robust database of extremely relevant information to a discipline, retail or biomimicry or anything there is to say. And of course, that could be a collaborative effort built from bottom up. However, there is a lot of value to that information that I would like to use and sell to people who need it to create business and an income. Totally. Would your platform allow for that?
Not yet, but definitely I see it as a new publishing industry, right? So we'll be publishing the creation of the Vortex, and you can ask for some money to sell it. So this is what in the future plans of doing this. Today, the way I will do it is feasible. So you get the private, like the pro membership. So you get the private link, and you embed the Vortex in a website that is paid by access. So you can build it, right? But it is not yet there. But if we have enough things rolling, this is a direct income, right? For all of us. So for sure, that would be interesting. And also something important is that whenever it's private and you don't have the pro membership anymore, it stays private.
Okay.
Right. It is not like you end up not paying and then your information becomes public straight away. So it keeps private, but you cannot edit it anymore unless it is public if you don't have the pro membership.
I think it makes sense to develop the content via Vortex, establishing a professional membership. However, make it for public access through another platform. I think that's a good idea. As long as the 7VORTEX exists and the pro membership is there, so content can continuously be created to keep that paid per-use membership fresh and engaging.
And to be honest, like from my intention of design intention, I hope this is gonna be an intergenerational design, right? Because all the open part, I wish my kids and the kids of my kids to have access, because what I felt is that we are destroying in such a rapid pace that we will need to have contextualized information at some point. So I hope this is gonna be useful and open to everyone. And it is not established, but in my case, for example, if I'm gonna die, I don't know, like I wish all my knowledge could go open, right? And then I will add some value to the system, because so far they put you into a metal box and you are not even adding value to the soil, right? So I say, like, I don't know, it should be my heritage, like to say, I want my vortex to be open.
Is there any way to export data in any other format, or?
Of course there is, because we have Neo4j behind. So, and there is also a way that is not coded yet to bring databases into a Vortex, right? There are both ways. But for doing that, I need to pay the developers.
Mm-hmm.
And then it costs their time into bringing. If you need something specific, I have like couple of code lines where I can download one Vortex into a CSV format.
Okay.
Like they did it for me, and I have to remember how to use it because it's coding. But yes, of course. And the idea will be also that at some point you can just take all your data and have it on your own. Because it's knowledge that becomes data, actually. And this is interesting. So in the tools that are developing on their own, both Neo4j and GraphAware, which are my teams of engineers, they are also having the tools to read content in the website. So for example, I'm in conversation with As Nature. So if I write a tree frog and that organism is in there, or the strategy is there, then you will have a pop-up suggestion on As Nature has this content. So you want to keep this bubble for you? And that will make it so much easier for everyone, right? And to be honest, I started with Neo4j because As Nature, they recommended me. They told me that they were going to do this. And I said, come on, you change again. I have to learn Neo4j and I have to go on. And it was about 3 or 4 months that I was isolated and I learned. And then when I came back and I said, okay, I got it. So it makes sense, right? It works like an ecosystem. It does make sense. And they said, oh, well, we couldn't do it. So now we change into something else. I said, well, sorry guys, but this really makes sense. So I'm going to stay with Neo4j. And this is how I kept moving. And now we're trying to understand, because Neo4j is very flexible. So you can plug into many databases. So to avoid fake news, you can have suggestions from As Nature, from Encyclopedia of Life. I don't know, you can choose, right? So you will know the source.
And the other question I had is you were showing the app, like an app that you're actually building with your wife, for the kind of the doctor portion. Was that like a phone app that was pulling data from 7VORTEX?
Yeah, well, it's a mock-up because we are doing it for oncology, because understanding cancer is about understanding the health ecosystem that is surrounding you. We are still trying to find one specific pill to cure cancer, right? Which might come, but my intuition, it is that it is our relationship with the context and the materials that we're using, and it might be many different origins. for having cancer. So we're like spinning off the 7VORTEX into this to build the project. So right now we're pitching for governmental funding and to try to get some money or finding investors to do it, right? Because we think it's very much needed. So for example, if we all put this to trace the coronavirus will have been easier, right? If you start by the symptoms, you will know that you are getting closer to a coronavirus thing.
So does the 7VORTEX, is that something in the future, or are you that it would be able to pull data into an app? Is that kind of?
It's feasible because we are using Neo4j.
Okay, but it's not currently in.
It is totally feasible. It is not there yet,
okay.
and we already have designed it. So we are moving forward that direction.
Gotcha.
Hi, this is Sriram. A quick related question. Would it be possible to import an Excel file with a whole bunch of data into Neo4j directly to create a particular vortex? It won't have the relationships, obviously, but at least you'll have the data set that can be imported, and then you can go in and manually set the type of relationships you want. Is that possible to do now, or not possible?
In a project basis is possible, right? Like if you want the specifically something, I have done it. So right now I'm working also for curating these kind of things, right? So I think that's a good example for you to see, as you were saying, Flavia, I think, right? Like, let me show you one that I've been paid to do and that I'm actually working on, right? So one guy, like he used to work with E.O. Wilson. So where is it? He published something with E.O. Wilson. Is this one? So he has some data, which is like this. So I have all this data, right? I did something that was kind of the same thing for Kate Raworth. I don't know if you're familiar with Kate, with donut economy, right? Here. So this is something that I do with coders as a project, and we put all his Excel challenge, because it was a design challenge. Like, how do you think what is the 8th way to think in the economy? So she gave me this part. We exported. We put everything into 7VORTEX. But the relationships, they were a mess, right? Because Excel databases are not mapping relationships. Yeah. So at the end, I just asked to the engineers to give me separate cells, and then we went one by one with Kate, saying this is for nature, this is for pluralism, this is for this, one by one, and it was a big success because that was the way we created a GIF file. So she got something into her Twitter to share with all the participants, and she gave back this to everyone. But it was a mixing between both. So the thing that I'm doing now, I think it was this one. Let's see if it's here. It's a knowledge repository on papers of the ecological community in Mexico. So the database is not giving you all this information, like this is the year, but this is also what I saw that it was emerging as topics. And this is the people and the collaboration that they had in between them. And so you can see, for example, this guy, collaborations, papers that he has collaborated, papers that he has developed. And this is information that wasn't into the database. So I will say that for doing the database export, you have also Kumu. I think it's pretty cool and neat to do. And for having something more unique and something more emerging, I will use this. So for example, for For the Biomimicry Institute, I did the global ecosystem. I don't know if you're familiar with, but this is huge, right? So it's gonna take a couple of seconds. Now the screen is my limit. So I'm trying to understand how to do this in augmented reality in a kind of holographic projection. So this is the mapping, but if I would have done it through the database that they had, I would have missed so many things, like all the topics that we're working in. That wasn't part of the survey. The survey is a closed survey, so you cannot see emerging things. So for example, we are all related to bioart, well, some of us with bioart, permaculture, medicinal plants, bioremediation, and this is unique, right? And this just happened because of the interviews that I was doing with each of the actors and mapping their point of view. So I think the purpose of the tool is bringing experience into the digital part and not dumping databases inside. But I can do it if it's in a project basis performance.
Okay, thank you.
And this is open, so you can include yourself. So now I'm really like hesitating what to do here, because when you see it, it's overwhelming and it is very difficult to put information inside. So I'm just trying to understand how to make it easier. And I think by using this kind of perspectives, like the one that I show you, so should be this one. Now the web is getting slow because of this. So I can see by countries, but I can't, well, I gave the database to the Biomimicry Institute, which is the contractor, right? So they do have the database. More questions, guys?
One more question from my side. So let's say you created this biomimicry ecosystem. That's a snapshot at a moment in time, because after that, unless somebody adds data to it, it doesn't get updated. Totally. So is there an automated way, given that you have the keywords, you may not have the relationships for everything, but given that you have the keywords and the context, is there a way to automatically update itself based on those keywords or based on some other mechanism? So that you don't have to constantly be updating it and it's a more automated process?
The straight answer is no, right? But I want to introduce you my team of engineers, which is called GraphAware. And they have clients like LinkedIn, World Economic Forum, and we are not anymore there. That was from yesterday, so they might have changed it. So those are our engineers, and here, right? Here's 7VORTEX. So our top engineers, right? And they are doing this insights engine, and they can also do automated surveys that are populating the map. But I have to pay them.
Yeah.
But they are top engineering. So almost whatever you can imagine that is feasible now, they can make it work, man. And they also did for Alexa. They're really top minds, European top minds. Now they open in US, and they're doing so many things like European Space Agency. Neo4j has been used for NASA, for governments, banking, airlines. So this is the future, right?
Thank you.
Thanks to you guys. And I'm sorry to not to have all the tools. I would say that I'm about 30% of what I wanted to do. Let me turn
no,
off
this is already a very useful tool. Just trying to sort things out.
And 30% is super impressive. And I love that it's visual. That goes a long way for me. So thank you, Hugo.
My pleasure. Well, thanks to you. That was a prototype. Can you see it?
Oh, so cool.
It's an ecosystem that they destroyed in the Netherlands. And I say, please don't destroy it, because actually everything is related. So this tree is related with newt, with wind management. They couldn't understand it. So the ecosystem got destroyed. But now at least we have the tool for many other ecosystems. Right?
Can I share something with you guys? So now this couldn't have come at a better time for me, because I have to map all the information for my thesis, which is deeply overwhelming. And I start doing these drawings, which I'll show you in 1 second.
For mapping research is really nice. Like some design students, industrial design students.
So this is one. This is the second one. Third one. I mean, I have like about 30 of these. So like what I'm trying to do is like, I'm thinking about information while I'm mapping these. And I'm just drawing, and I feel like my brain is like, or self-organizing itself, but now having a tool with digital tool to do that mapping, I just feel like my entire life has been saved. Because this is like prototype. I think they're prototypes of coordinating information, but yeah, I don't. It's and when you showed that prototype behind, I kind of saw the same thing. Yeah. Yay.
Deborah, could you share with us your?
Yeah, I was just about to click in to tell you a similar story, Alex and everybody, because I was creating a curriculum, right, of biomimicry classes and videos and research articles and teaching, right? So organizing a curriculum. And usually when I do that, I have a Finder folder and it's got folders in it and it's totally two-dimensional. And so I was exploring it in spreadsheets because I wanted to see, you know, multiple intersects of, you know, some assignments are good for more than one area in biomimicry or more than one level of biomimicry. And when this came around and it was like a three-dimensional, to me, it was in my head a three-dimensional spreadsheet so that it was interactive. And I didn't have to have like multiple folders with redundant information. So I'll share my screen now. Is the wind too much? Because I can move inside if it's loud. Okay.
Could you just send the wind this way? It's not very windy inside over here.
It's really nice out here today. So hang on 1 second and I'll get my system up and I'll share it.
In the interim, I just wanted to ask the question. So in order for us to really dive in and start using this collaboratively, even personally, we do need to, I understand that we do need to sign up at the pro level, at the subscription level. Is that correct?
Well, it doesn't have to be, right? Because if you want to make all your information public and let other people to learn from your work, then the ideal for me will be actually to make it open for everyone. In the beginning, like when Deborah started, I said to Dana, like, I had coupons and I was willing to give you memberships to all the BPros in the program, right? Because I said, this is a tool that BPros should have. Meanwhile, we have this legal aspect about privacy in Europe, the GDPR or something like this. Yeah, and they level up the Stripe, which is the payment interface. And they didn't update the coupons. So now even me, I have to pay. But it is not needed, should be. I feel, okay, the system is pushing me to make it a business because I was giving away every time a new license, which I don't care, right? Because you were the right people to give. So it depends. If you want private collaborations, focus on business, yes. If you just want to collaborate freely, then no, you don't need a pro membership.
Well, from what I saw, we don't have all the features unless we do have the membership, which is the most important point.
But if it's everything is collaborative, you don't need to, except for copy, embed, and transfer.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just trying to visualize how that would work.
But you're right, that was one of my questions, because in the beginning, I discussed with the developers, I want the whole thing to just to be private and public. That was the only thing that I wanted, without features involved, right? And at that time, I was with one of my very good friends that he comes from business. And he said, like, we need to have all the features to trigger the buying, right? And I was against. In the group we discussed, and we set it up like this, and now it's expensive to me to go back. So I don't know, maybe in the future I will go back into just private public, because I think it's the cleanest way to, that was the original design. And I agree with your point. I don't want to make it like blur. But right now it's like this, yes.
Yeah.
And I think what I try is not to make it too expensive, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's very reasonable, and I'm not really having an issue with having to pay. It's incredibly reasonable. I mean, it's you're basically giving away the shop, but just having that ability to, you know, when we're working collaboratively, versioning and those kinds of things are extremely important, because we don't want to accidentally clobber each other's work or take it in a different direction. You know, we want to be able to work in sync,
yeah,
and be able to go back to certain versions, even just as a thought process. And I don't see those features unless we are paying members. And I just wanted to clarify that was the case.
I agree with you, and you're right.
I was wondering too, if you have envisioned some licensing down the road for when an entire organization wants to have their teams using 7VORTEX, let's say, for instance, a computer science department of a university.
That's why I put teaming on the conversation, because we already discussed with the engineers how to include these things. So for example, Melina was also helping me, Melina Angel, which is from the first cohort. She was telling me, for example, that an organization or an ecosystem, it has between 2 and 9 relationships to make it work. So we're even thinking about making this kind of small features to make it more optimal for as a team tool, right? So we are thinking in team channels and in network things. So my hope is that a company is gonna hire me to develop the whole network thing. And once that I have the income from that big project, then my hope is gonna be passing all these tools to the Vortex, right? But I also realize that I need to make my living out of this.
That makes sense.
I am curious if you know about Innocentive.
And not yet.
So it's almost like this open crowd. So the reason why I remember about it is because its founder said something like when he was speaking about the difference between data, information, knowledge, wisdom, he said that we find information so easily, but wisdom so terribly. And basically what it is an open source, like it's crowdsourcing. So like what they do is they send challenges out that come like, you know, certain groups of people cannot solve, and they use the collective intelligence to solve that particular challenge. And for instance, I think it's this known example where NASA was working on a problem for like 30 years and they couldn't solve it, and they did this crowdsourcing, and someone made an analogy with something that he remembered from his childhood and solved the challenge. So basically they look into the idea of collective intelligence. Well, Dana told me they're not very successful, but I really like, I like the idea a lot.
the spirit is really nice. And well, two things. First one, I even wrote to the NASA guy on knowledge, like IT,
Yeah.
because they're also using
Paddle.
Neo4j.
Paddle?
Yeah, I don't know. He's kind of a Latin name.
Oh, no, I mean the name of the program's Paddle. Are you talking about Paddle?
No,
P-E-A-L.
I was trying with one guy that is David Mesa, I think. David Mesa. I offer him this thing. And the second thing that I did is with the design challenge of biomimicry. Right? Like I said, if we can tackle design challenges with these kind of ideas, cool for like collaborative mapping, we can all run challenges like Kate Raworth did it on your own, right? You don't need not even a license to run challenges like this. But it seems to be very siloed. Like that's the story that I had between us, Nature, Biomimicry Institute, B3.8, Janine. And I keep pushing on, we should be the example of collaboration. Like, if we want things to change, we have to start by not putting our ego in front, right?
Yeah. Well, something that happens usually is that everyone is so tied to their social structures that it's very difficult to find the time to work in this manner. And then that information gets lost.
Yeah. For example, I've been trying to get to you for about 2 years. Right?
Wow.
And it could have been really, really useful for all of you since the beginning as a collective intelligence tool.
I'm so glad that we got to do it finally.
And this is thanks to Catalina, because she wanted to make the difference. Right?
Yeah.
But I was at some points blocked and at some other points driven to some specific people. But I think there is a fear on losing the control of, self-emergence, right? Self-organization and self-emergence is something that we're more afraid than we actually manage.
Hugo, this is brilliant work, and I would love to know what materials you have in terms of a user guide, more tutorials. You sent us one tutorial, but is there more information out there? Because the first thing I want to do is dig in and understand how to use every button, every bell and whistle, and understand the big picture. And if we can have just a list of places that we can go to learn on our own time.
Cool. Yeah. There's nothing as an instructor because I really wanted to push the self-organization, right? And if I lead exactly how to use it, then I might have lost many surprises. So if someone wants to put it together, it's fine. I did some tutorials and I tie them together into a vortex. So when you go into the explore part and you put tutorials, they are there, but they are just homemade, like as we are doing now. I just posted there. And we are seeing the Bidwell Biomimicry curriculum.
Yeah, I just shared my screen, but I can unshare it if you want me to. So you can share something else.
So I don't have that across the top. I don't have Explore, Discover, Collaborate on my tab, on my bar. Is that because I don't have the paid version?
I think it's because you have it on full screen.
Oh,
I think so.
I have it on a Chrome window and
I have no idea.
Can you still hear me? I can't tell if I'm muted.
yes,
Yeah.
we can hear you.
We
Thank
hear
you.
I don't know why.
Yeah, so Karen, to your point about wanting a tutorial, we learn by playing, and I did this just by figuring it out, and there's a lot more power that's available than what I put in here. And I built the relationships one-on-one. I didn't upload data or anything. I just splashed all my ideas on here and kind of linked them together. But I loved it. And for me, again, the purposes were to to try and organize information in sort of a 3D spreadsheet. But then what was powerful about it, of course, is that all these other relationships emerge when you arrange your ideas in this way. You're like, oh my gosh, of course, like it's all nested, and it comes together in ways that, whoa, you know, you never really anticipated. So I started out trying to link my curriculum together kind of in a Bloom's taxonomy way, the way educators do. So going from like an introduce level to an apply level to an evaluate and create level. As you learn, you go up Bloom's taxonomy in that order. And so some of my ideas for how to teach biomimicry or activities or videos or readings were like introductory, and some were activities that give people a chance to try it. So an apply level, and then evaluate and create level, higher order thinking stuff. And of course, you know, some of the activities relate to more than one pillar or essential element of biomimicry. So if there was an activity that related to more than one, then it'll be linked to all of them. Or for me, I was like, oh, great. All right, so I'm working with this group of people and I need an introductory level outdoor activity that's going to introduce reconnect. And it was just a way of being able to sort through all my relevant files by saying, okay, outdoor, reconnect, introductory, and seeing what was highlighted in the map. And those were my options that would fulfill my intentions. So I guess, I mean, I'm happy to tell you, if I remember again, like how I did it. And I know that I missed a lot of the power, but for my purposes, it was so illuminating just to put things in this ecosystem way, because it shows relationships that you didn't know were there before. And once you get in there and start playing around, it is truly biomimetic. It self-organizes, and it just it grows, and it becomes intuitive. So I'll shut up now, but it's awesome.
No, Deb, I'd love to hear just like, where did you start, and like what like just an overview. I mean, just what bubble did you start with, and then where'd you go?
And was this a paid subscription at the time? You know,
so
did you need that feature?
I was an early adapter, and Dana hooked me up with Hugo, and Hugo gave me the professional level experience for free at the time. And so now I'm going to be paying for it properly, now that I realize I have it without paying for it. So what I started with was looking at my activities in my curriculum, kind of my syllabus, I guess you'd say, and the order that I teach Intro to Biomimicry for one of my seminar classes, and I typically start with Reconnect. So I started with Reconnect, and I added in some of the eyesights that I've changed to fit my local environment, and the way I've tweaked them to be able to be brainstormable when the students bring them back into class on Monday morning, kind of thing. So I started out with Reconnect, and then put down some ideas for my curriculum, and then and I thought about it from Bloom's taxonomy. Is that an introductory level, an applied level, or a creative level? And so that kind of emerged as the way I wanted to organize it. So as I was trying to think about organizing a future class, which is now happening, an upper level biomimicry class that's interdisciplinary with a whole bunch of senior level students who are from, I don't know, all walks of life, let's say, at the school that I'm teaching at. As I thought of different assignments or readings or ideas or lecture material, I would plug it into this as a link through my through my Microsoft SharePoint files. All those links right now are dead, unfortunately, because they expired within my university. So for instance, if I click on this Spreading the Meme project, and I click on that file link, it was live at the time, but those links were set to expire. So I have to go back in and redo every single link. I have worked with my IT so that now these links won't expire. So that's why this ecosystem is a little bit dead at the moment, and a total pain in my ass, and a perpetual thing on my list of things to do is to go back in and make the links live. But nonetheless, I mean, it's just a body of work. It's doable. And now that I have permanent server space and they don't expire, that'll be better. And my intention was to make it public, but because the links are dead, there's no point in making it public right now. And also I don't know how to share those links outside of my university. Nonetheless, on the plus side, it's really a powerful way to organize curriculum. And so I think there's just enormous potential for teaching educators how to use 7VORTEX. And that's why I was thinking about it at a university licensing level or within an educational system. Teaching teachers how to use this is going to be powerful.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing. I've been waiting for this explanation for a long time. And well, make it public, because it is not just about the relevance of the link, but also it will spark other professors. So for example, working with the Venn network, I wasn't able to show them the way that you structure biomimicry, right? Which might be very, very different than the way that I structured my presentation on biomimicry. And so I think also another thing that I would like to share with you, because it could be important and maybe relevant, is, for example, when you are here and you put the taxonomy.
Yeah.
I put the biomimicry taxonomy one by one. So things are here, and for example, if you put move, then you will see move, stay put.
And let me stop sharing my screen so you can share yours.
Yeah, sorry.
No problem. There you go.
You can see it?
Yes.
I'm gonna go all the way down again so you can see it. So I put it here, taxonomy. So I have the biomimicry taxonomy here. And it is just different, right? But if we start building all together, for example, examples, I'm gonna make it collaborative. And I have one example here, another one here. I don't know, like there are so many things to do. Also, life principles, and this one I have it, I localize it better in biomimicry. But we also have the life principles, I think they're here. So for example, when you go with a company, you can use the life principles and then say, actually you are doing this one. So the company A is here. And then you say you are dealing with this and with this one. So, and then you create it in a way that it becomes more like this. And so on and so forth, right? So it is very, very visual, the way that you can link. I'm using it also for the Sustainable Development Goals as a way to show how things are linked in between them. I'm gonna delete it, so I don't have it here. But if you want, like if you put me a list of your users, I can place a copy of this one into your account, right? Like this was the purpose since the beginning. So you will have like principles, and another thing that might be useful, I'm just saying it might be because I don't even know if you follow the same thing, but biology to design, for example. So this is how I created this, right? And if you go to discover natural models, and then you move to abstract biological strategies, to identify a function, this function to define the context, brainstorm by inspired ideas, integrate life principles.
This
So
is awesome.
I don't know if there's someone else that will appreciate this, right? Measuring life principles. So I just did it like this, and as I was telling you, I'm just clicking, checking on the box, right? And so we have an ecosystemic platform. And I realized by doing this, I was doing biomimicry without saying that it was biomimicry. So that took away
living biomimicry
communication barriers and the language barriers. Because with these guys from systemic thinking, the club of Brussels, they don't know biomimicry. And we were doing biomimicry with the energy exchanges. So I think it's a nice and elegant way to just to put it there, right? It's a system, we're all connected, and you start playing. and it comes like this. So this is again an image, a template. I was playing with the size because it's not so evident. And for the tutorials that you asked me, we put here tutorials. And they're here. Some of them, like this one, the first connected bubble, you might be related, but they have less tools, right? Because that was in the beginning. So yeah, it's evolving all the time.
What I love the most about this is that it's like has layers, but they're invisible layers. So it's a thing within a thing within a thing, and then depending on your intention, different configurations appear or the form appears, and you don't have to. Yeah, it's so non-linear. It's great.
I would like to, let's say, bring bubbles from other maps, so you don't have to rework it again. So in PowerPoint presentations, you have to rework all the time. So at some point, you will have your bubble tank with all your bubbles, and then you will bring 3 for this presentation, 4 for that other presentation. And of course, right? Like, this is my dream, but
It'd be so cool.
Make it work.
Yeah. Very cool.
Integrated development with growth, that means patience.
Yeah.
So thank you, Catalina.
Remind me, are we able to
Thanks,
see
Channing,
your
that he was also writing the case on 7VORTEX. So you've been always there, and I think we have to support each other as a BPro, right? And this is my best shared time with people like you. And I wish this could touch as many BPros, be specialists, biomimicry people everywhere, so we can make it better and better every day.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Hugo. Thank you very much for that.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Could you send me the record, Debbie?
Yes, I will.
Hugo, I have a question for you. What would be one thing that you would like our specifically like our BPro group to do? I mean, is there anything specifically that you would like from something from us to really help you accelerate 7VORTEX?
Well, of course, to use it, right?
Of course.
Not so easy, and it takes sometimes a little bit more work than I would like as a software to represent. So right now I see it as something more primitive than I would like to have it. So I know that people like you will be with the pillars, with all this same kind of a spirit, using it. So if you just use it, that's for me enough, right? And when I see you and I see ourselves when we were BPros, I think this was a perfect tool to create a genius of biome with many genius of places inside. So there is something that I haven't seen before yet. It's to have this ecosystem map on biomimicry. Like if you go to Costa Rica, I did a BSOL. I don't know if you have heard about BSOL, but we found ourselves lost after the program. So we're creating an experience for biomimicry professionals and specialists. And I invited as a first step to El Cuyo. I did it with Sarah and with Gamma. So from Egypt and from South Africa, Zimbabwe. And we came and we realized that actually like a biomimicry blitz going to a place and putting together biomimicry knowledge into a specific platform. At that point, 7VORTEX didn't exist. That would be so awesome to add value to the local place. So whenever the others will come, they could keep adding if it's open, and the schools, they could use this material for their own. So for example, if you go to Costa Rica, I wouldn't like you to spend too much time in front of the computer, right? But if you do a previous research or a post research, and you can add this value to the local ecosystem, then you can transfer it to local schools, to some other people. And then as a biomimics, we already add value to an ecosystem in a digital way. So I thought that was beautiful, and we did the Be Soul for this, Biomimicry for the Soul, or From the Soul, both. We got some sponsorship from Nikon, the cameras, to make a biomimicry journal on this, like a collective biomimicry journal. Sometimes it is not the science that you have that is perfect, right? But you have an idea that triggers another one, another one, and that's the beauty of working collectively. So if at some point I can help on building something around Costa Rica or any other given ecosystem, I think that would be beautiful to see.
I think we should have all the ecosystems that we visit during the immersion recorded on a platform, the Vortex, 7VORTEX platform, so that we can go there to learn before, after, and share what we learn. I think it's brilliant.
I totally agree, because if we have done that before since the first cohort, can you imagine what we would have now for every cohort that is getting there? And it's never too late to start it, but at least now we have a tool. And when I was there, I didn't.
Hugo, have you done, I saw you briefly, you mapped biomimicry around the world with BPros or biomimicry specialists, but have you done any work towards mapping starting with biomimicry networks around the world, so that we can break that down into each, from each network into the influence in the ecosystem surrounding
This global ecosystem, it has one of the bubbles that is global networks.
Okay.
But to be honest, it becomes complicated because the screen is too small now. So
say that again, I didn't hear you.
The screen is too small for such a big, so it becomes really tough. So that's why, like, my dream is to have this floating into a room in augmented reality.
Stark.
You can explore it in many different ways, right?
Tony Stark.
Sorry?
What, Deb?
You need it like Tony Stark and Iron Man.
But biomimicry one, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You need that interactive screen space where it's
Exactly.
big and holographic.
Yeah, so right now, and that's a nice tip with the smart boards, you look really awesome using these kind of things. Like you go there, I was presenting to the oncology, to the Cancer Institute in Mexico, and one of my friends has this smart board company, so I asked him one just for presenting, and they were like, because you start doing like Minority Report kind of thing, and presenting, opening bubbles, and it is just like wow. And sometimes this wow is what you need as a biomimic as well. And this is the reaction that I wanted from the audience as a BPro, right? Like I want them to know that I'm so innovative that my community has done something like this that I can present in such a great way.
This idea also made me think of, do you know about stigmergy? Do you guys know about stigmergy? It's like the way in which, I read about this in the book Self-Organization in Biological Systems. It's, for instance, when let's say a termite mound, it builds over several generations. There's not the generation of termites who built a mound. It changes, but stigmergy is at the most basic level is indirect coordination through the environment between agents or actions. So they leave signals in the environment. So then when the new termites come in, they know exactly where to start building again. And I really like that.
That's impressive. There is another example for humans, right? Like the living bridges in India.
The what?
Living bridges. Like,
yes, that too. Yes.
Kind of the same. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just so incredible how they managed to do that.
Hugo, is it okay for us to contact you directly with any big questions or just collaborations? And
please do it, of course.
Can you put your email or preferred contact?
Like H from Hugo at 7vortex.com. That's it. I can put it.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thanks to you guys for your time. It has taken us, I don't even know how long, but
About 2 hours.
I thought I was going to be brief.
Yeah, thank you very much, Hugo. And besides using it, please let us know if there any way that we can support you in, you know, in any of the projects that you have moving forward.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope that will be helpful for you to make the difference. It's very much needed right now.
Yeah. Thank you. I think for all of us as individuals and as a cohort have different ways that we can use 7VORTEX. So.
And do not be afraid to share it with some other people, right? Like in your classes, maybe the students, they can also use it. It is not something like you have your own collection, so your content is there, but the idea is to keep moving things forward, to share perspectives.
Yes.
I have to say, in systems engineering and systems mapping and systems thinking, this is probably the most brilliant, comprehensive, visually fulfilling and functional way to represent systems, a visual systems map.
Thank you.
That I've run into.
That's a lot to say. I think it's really thanks to biomimicry, because adding biomimicry to the systems become a biosystem, which is an ecosystem, right? A bionetwork. So thanks to biomimicry and the simplicity of nature, we can deliver something like this. And this is what makes the difference, biomimicry. And it is not well, it could be systemic or systems perspective, but it is truly an ecosystems perspective. And this is changing the conversation. Systems people, they are not always taking it because they are part of the establishment also of the systems language. So they don't want to change all the time. So thank you a lot, because it means a lot from a systems thinker to have this description. Thank you.
Now's the time to change the world and everything in it.
We're waiting for this, right? So time to act. Well, I think you have all been acting all the way down, but at least now.
Yeah, but the opportunity is the greatest now. I work with retail, hospitality, so that's the most impacted so far with aviation, so many layoffs and so forth. And so having a voice to demonstrate how powerful is biomimicry to shape the future of the world in each of our niche. I can become a systems thinker overnight because I'm not. I'm an interior designer. So what am I doing in my world to really shape the future? Because there are so many needs out there right now. Emotional too. So it's an interesting time.
Agreed.
And it's interesting to see how out of a very scary pandemic, so the other side is a white canvas, a land of opportunities. When we get out of the cages, what are we gonna do, right? So it's prime time to think right now.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you took the time for this, right? Because this is gonna take us like on the wave and with a lot of strength. So let's just keep our energy for whenever it's needed. Like I learned that evolution is also about the right pace.
Hugo, I have a more specific question for you. In your presentations and storytelling, when you take this out to the world in developing your projects or just presenting, how visible do you make the word biomimicry? Do you actually present without the term biomimicry? Because that tends to throw people off and distract people because it's now a new term and then they're thinking about that as opposed to your ideas and concepts. And so I just wanted to get your take on how you approach that.
So since I came out from the Biomimicry Professional Program, I think has been like this, right? Not always, like sometimes I felt really frustrated because biomimicry was not wide known. And I think now it's a little bit more. So it adds more value. But I don't want the people to center attention on biomimicry. So I'm not afraid, like I'm always present myself as a biomimicry professional. I think we have to build our own reputation. So I don't say anymore I'm this or the other. I'm always saying I'm a biomimicry professional. And biomimicry is about inspiration from nature. That's it, bio-inspired, whatever the term they want to put it, we learn from nature. So that already gives the introduction, but I'm not focused my discussions on biomimicry. And the tool has helped me a lot. Because as Flavia was saying, now you have a systemic, ecosystemic perspective, which is actually a biomimicry perspective, without having to explain it. It's so visual. And mind maps are called mind maps because that's how our mind works. So it is kind of a universal language. So whenever I want to say something on biomimicry, for example, I prefer to go to the example, I don't know, let's say quorum sensing or bioluminescence, right? Like bacteria, they have interspecies language and interspecies language. So this is more like the interspecies language that we need, which is very visual, very easy to connect interdisciplinary thinking. So yeah, it depends on the audience, but if we go back to the principle, which is form fits function, not always is needed to mention biomimicry. If you want the other to change, you might need to establish a gradient. Can I share one slide that helped me in communication? Because that might be useful for you guys.
Yeah.
It has been very, very useful for me. Let me see just, where is it? Before, give me.
I know when I'm in the context of engineers and designers, I don't mention biomimicry often, if at all, because I use the terms like, you know, optimization and resiliency and efficiencies and all those terms of the life's principles without mentioning the term biomimicry, so I don't derail their attention.
Yeah, so I realized one thing, right? Like, I don't know in nature how it really works, but this is something that I got from my experience that I think is what is worth it to share. So I call it evolution gradient because to the people in business as usual, I call about degenerative business and I want them to move from linear to systemic. So I make the call to business to innovation. Whenever they understand a little bit more, then I move into sustainability. And I say from maximize to optimize, and they need to understand their ecosystem. When I know that they know sustainability, my next step is resilience. So how can we move from competition to collaboration? And I have John D. Lewis' example on ecosystem restoration. So we start healing. Then I'm working with the Regenerative Capital Institute. And then I use positive industries and thriving ecosystems as analogies. And then for those like you, like I think we're all looking for a flourishing or thriving ecosystem to create abundance. And it could be productive ecosystem or even better thriving ecosystem to enhance your leverage points. So I'm not always showing all my cards. I'm starting, it depends on where I think you are based. And I'm talking your language and I'm taking you to the next step, but not a straight away altogether. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And in these things, I didn't even mention biomimicry.
Right.
Right. And to these system thinkers, they want to change Europe, right? And I say, well, yes, but to whom we are talking to? And if they are engineers, then they don't get biomimicry until now that now you can see swarm technologies. And so I'm continuously trying to get language inputs from my audience to be able to be locally attuned and responsive. But I realized that the main problem was me and the way that I communicated myself. So I changed many things, and this is this kind of presentation like today, the presentation that I enjoy the most, because I can be myself, opening all the languages, right?
It's almost in a way Aikido. Like you have to be very indirect to communicate something that is very direct.
So for example, as a business, to some of them, like with Channing, we're talking about why 7VORTEX is a biomimicry business and a biomimicry software. But I don't make that point to all the people. Like, I'm just a business, right? And this is a tool that is going to be useful for you. And as you saw it in the other side, it's decision solutions, digital solutions for optimal decisions. And this is something that I did just 2 weeks ago, because I was stuck in Europe, because in Europe, they don't know, or we don't know now that I'm here, about healthy ecosystems. Because most of the things that they have are been intervened by humans in many ways and planted by humans. So when you talk about healthy or thriving ecosystems, they don't see predators involved, for example. So this is not what it is, right? If we want to see abundance, then we have to go to the equator. And from the equator in the tropics, you have abundance. We should be learning about abundance in the right way, from the right latitudes. So it depends to, I think, locally attuned, following the life principles again, it makes sense. It doesn't help you in the beginning, and that's why I went to try them out into nature. Like every time I was trying to find where they didn't work, but they do. So take a leap of faith a little bit on this, just to consider it always as a criteria. It doesn't have to be like you will be more trustful and more confident. Confident is the word with time. But now that you have a tool saying, okay, so for example, with biomimicry thinking, we developed something like this. And this guy is a BPro, and I hope you will develop other things, and like we can cross-pollinate in so many different ways. But critical connection, so Wall Street started with a small group of people. And this is what I respect the most from Dana, that she was a visionary and generous enough to give the time and presence to all of us to deliver something and to let us grow, right?
Yeah. So Hugo, I learned, like many, by example, and so I would love to, if you're willing to browse through all of your current, your creations and your examples. Are you willing to share those with me or us as a?
Yeah. So the one that you have in Discover, in the Discover part, you have Explore and then Discover. They're all mine.
Okay.
So you can see specifically the ones that are mine. They're public, right?
Okay.
But if any other time, I don't know, I was thinking about doing webinars. So maybe I can put 2 or 3 topics in the webinars. We do it like this, and then we do something like a business proposal with this. But like, let me think about it, and then we can learn together, and that also will be helpful for me.
And
how would you like to receive, in terms of development, program development, or the programming, bug fixes or new features? What would they be, that pipeline for communicating that and enhancing that?
Yeah. So for bugs, please let me know, because I don't see everything. And then once that you have a bug, if you can record it on a screen record, it's easier. And I give it directly to Miro. Miro is the engineer behind 7VORTEX. For the development, I made a compromise with myself that it has to happen through business. So this is the farthest that I got like this, and the next steps will be through business. So if I have a contract, I'm happy to share it for the whole community, right? But I need to make it work as a business because it's part of my objectives. I want to be a biomimicry business leading a different narrative on how to do business. So if I want that, I need to be a business first, a good business, like a profitable business. But I have packages that I've been asked to do, but when they see that it's expensive, they don't get it. But I do have like the network part, the team channel, I have like many things that are already projects. Those are the things that I've been asked. But that's why I jumped immediately, or not immediately, but I jumped to the health part because I want to have a contract there in the health part. And as a matter of chance or not chance at all, we are now in a health crisis. So I think just by following the instincts of my wife, now we are in a position that it could be leading to a good business. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Anything else for your case?
Thank you.
For
Thank you
you.
very much, guys. I really appreciate it.
Oh, and please do you offer, and please do share if you can the LP and the taxonomy.
So please to do that, send me whether all together, that would be easier for me. But if not, one-on-one, send me an email with the email user that you are having there. So I will make a list and just make copies on your own collections, right?
Thank you.
I will put, if you are okay, 3 of them: taxonomy, life principles, and the biology to design or design to biology.
Yeah.
So you can play with your own. So it's also being used as a template for challenges, right? So if you want to use this and with the license, you create copies on your students, they can just fill up, yeah, like put content on the bubbles.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, guys.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Hugo. Thank you a lot.
Hugo, I will figure out how to send you
Thank
this
you.
recording, and I will be sharing it with all of the BPros who wanted to be here but couldn't as well. Thank you so much for your time.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Brilliant.
Bye. Okay, I'm going to stop recording, everybody.
Hi, guys.
Bye.
Hi.
Hi.